All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Triaxle podcast. Today we are here with Matthew Sweeney from Suffield, Connecticut. Correct, Matt?
Yes, sir.
With Matt is with Sweeney Enterprises, a small family-run business that him and his father have, and we're excited to have you on today, Matt. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Matt, you have a bit of a family history in the trucking business?
Yeah, so my grandfather started a trucking company back in 1967. Quickly grew. At his peak, he was, I'm going to screw that up, but like 170 trucks.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he was, got to a pretty good size pretty quickly. And I grew up there. My dad and his four brothers grew up there. So it's kind of just a family legacy thing. And when he closed in 2018, I don't think my dad or grandfather would have ever said that they'd be starting a business like 5 years later, and or not starting, but like being involved with it. And just cool how life comes full circle for, my grandfather and my dad and everything else.
Sure is. Is Grandpa still around?
Yeah, he's still around and still calls me every day, bugging me. Oh, you should call this person. You gotta do this, and
tells you what you're doing wrong.
Oh, he's the first too. Or like, I was shocked that low bed we bought 2 weeks ago now. I called him and I was like, "Hey, go check it out. Like, I can't go look while I'm at school." And I expected a phone call saying, "You're crazy. It's a piece of junk. This, that, the other thing." And he was like, "Oh, it looks pretty nice." And so then that's when I was like, "Oh, if he's saying it's nice, then I guess I'll go look at it Friday afternoon." And yeah.
And he grabbed it up.
Yeah, well, I walked away to get him down a few thousand and came back a week later.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're more patient than I am. The guy says, "Yeah, fine, I'll take it."
Yeah.
Awesome. What did Grandpa haul?
So they were all dry-van box trailers. So he started hauling for Speedy Dry, which was his first customer. Small local company, and then he just grew and grew. Was running all of New England, had a terminal in New Jersey too. So he was more than just one terminal in Chicopee, Mass. Somehow he did it, and he grew pretty quick.
That's awesome. About how long was he in business? Do you know?
50 years.
50 years.
Yeah, he closed in January of 2018.
Okay. You said he started in 67?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Okay. That's awesome. That's a pretty good run, man.
Yeah.
That's a good run.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So, great. So what piqued your interest in the trucking side besides growing up around them and being with them all the time?
So I always grew up around them. In high school, I poured concrete. So that's kind of what got me into like small excavation site work. And then went to Marine Corps boot camp and then MOS school. I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for 6 months pushing dirt. And that's when I really got into site work and like started liking that stuff, and got back from MOS school and got a job driving low bed. And my dad and I always had my grandfather's first brand new truck and first diesel he ever purchased from 1969 that we restored when I was younger. So then we were just looking for a low bed to tow that around to shows rather than being in a cab over going to shows, and came across that on Marketplace, went and scooped it up. And then we were like, well, we have this. We might as well try making some money with it. Legaled it up and got DOT numbers and the full insurance and rolled with it.
That's awesome.
It's kind of cool how it started kind of by mistake. Like, wasn't the intention. My mom calls us crazy. Grandma does, basically everyone, but hey.
You're a good kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
So it started as a hobby.
It's a hobby. My dad and I love it. Like, Saturday, we were washing the truck and doing stuff, and you have the issues like a fuel line had a pinhole leak in it, and we noticed it in the driveway, but we got it fixed quick and went and moved to 320 and 313 together. And I was like, "Oh, Dad, you can stay home." And no, he wanted to come, so came along.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So you and Dad obviously have a very good relationship then. That's awesome to see father and son working together and doing what they love. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And if Dad didn't come, Grandfather probably would have been knocking on the door to get in the seat too.
That's good. That's good. So what does Grandpa think of you? Think of you trucking?
Um, yeah, another one that thinks we're crazy, but he's also the first one to be calling about it and helping out. Um, like when the truck was first lettered, we went to the guy that lettered all my grandfather's trucks from his first truck, and I get a phone call. Hey, the truck's sitting at my house all lettered, and 82-year-old grandfather with cataracts went and picked the thing up from lettering it and drove it home.
No
But
kidding.
hey, yeah.
Is it hand painted or is it vinyl?
So my grandfather's truck started hand painted, but where it's just vinyl now.
Gotcha.
Um, it's tough to find someone that still wants to do the full hand painted logos and everything.
It is tough. We have a guy down here by the name of Pooch. Anybody local listening would know his name, and he's phenomenal, very talented.
Hmm.
But he's hard to get, and he's busy, and he travels. He travels a decent radius because there's not a lot of people around that do it. It is a talent and an art, and it's super impressive what they can do.
Yeah, and I don't know. One day I feel like I'll probably have the truck pinstriped up more, but it's so tough, like trying to work a truck and like you just want to power wash it quick, and you have to be so much more careful when you have the pinstriping.
Yeah,
But yeah,
for sure. And what model truck do you run?
it's a 1989 R model Mac. So
89 R model Mac, and I see
yeah.
you sharing pictures and videos on social media. You guys definitely keep it
Hmm.
looking sharp, keep it nice and clean. I saw you at the were you at the Chemex
Yeah,
wash bay a
so
couple weeks ago?
yeah, so that's actually he's gonna have a video coming out hopefully sooner than later because it should be a really cool video. But my grandfather was actually Chemex's first customer. I want to say 71.
No kidding.
So their shop is now 10 minutes from our house, and we've been buying their products, I mean, for years now. And it was just like cool to like do a whole full circle story again. Like how his soap was the first soaps to go on my grandfather's trucks, and now they're the same soaps going on ours. Like it's weird to think about like something like soap like that, but
Yeah,
it's still a cool
local
story.
local businesses working together. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
actually have a Chemex set up in our shop
Hmm.
down here. I haven't used it lately, but we have the foaming set up and everything. And I think
Yeah.
I just came across them, just saw guys using them on Instagram.
Yeah, I think they're the best products. I mean, I'm not going to down any other companies, but I think, especially because they're local, but I can't find anything better that's around.
Sure. No, it worked well for us. We were always very happy, and it's kind of like painless to do it. Just
Yeah.
the 2-step process, and you rinse it off,
Hmm.
and you're done. So pretty sweet. Well, it makes the truck look sharp for sure.
Yeah.
So you're still going to college, right?
Yeah. I
You're going.
got 3 months left, but who's
3 months.
counting?
Awesome. But just counting down the days.
Yeah.
So you're going for construction management.
Yep.
So you're not just in the trucking side. You also have an interest in site work and development. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've worked for that utility company my dad works for. That was my first CDL job. And then I wanted to operate more. And I mean, just doing pipelines in city streets isn't the spot you're going to get into operating for someone more local. So I went to a excavation company and did everything for them, whether I was in the triaxle, labored, or I spent quite a bit of time in a cab, and I learned a lot there. Um, and then this year, going into now looking for a full-time job, I just wanted something different and came across a company, and they gave me a really good foreman opportunity, and we're looking forward to that starting in the spring.
Awesome. So when you were like going back a few years when you were in high school, did you know that you were going to go to college for construction management, or did that just kind of come
Um,
around?
I My parents wanted me to go to college, so it was kind of finding a major that I'd be interested in. And I mean, I knew I didn't want to be a police officer like my dad, just with the current climate and that criminal justice majors are just kind of pointless. Because you can be a cop with or without it. And I don't know. I just came across a construction management major, only applied to 2 schools, and ended up here in Northfield, Vermont. So,
Awesome. Not a
yeah.
bad place to go to school.
No.
Do you ski or
Yeah,
snowboard? Yeah.
I ski.
Nice.
So,
What's the
yeah,
closest
this year,
mountain up there?
uh, you're 30 minutes from 6 different mountains. So,
Awesome.
yeah, haven't been this year yet just because the conditions haven't been great, but hopefully we get a good powder day and I can go.
Hopefully. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a bust of a winter on the East Coast for sure.
yeah.
A lot of mud. You guys have a lot of mud up there?
Oh, it's awful.
It's
Can't keep my daily clean at all.
no. No, you cannot. What was your driving factor to head in this direction? Were you like in high school, did you work construction related jobs?
Yeah, so I was doing flat work and foundations for a company called Badass Tools. Um, and I don't know, it was just cool actually seeing the fruits of your labor and everything. And that's kind of what created the passion for actually dirt work and concrete and just construction in general. And it was great being around a group of people that had pride in their work. Kind of hard to find nowadays too. Um, so yeah, that just kind of created the passion and why I wanted to go the route of working for someone else right out of college to gain more experience because to me, I could go truck every day for the rest of my life, but I won't learn as much. And not saying that I won't learn things from trucking, but learning, working for someone else and learning things I can take to my own business, maybe in the future, whether that's 5, 10, 15 years where I go on my own, like we'll see where the world takes me. I'm only 22.
Sure.
Um, So I really only have like a 5 year plan from now to stick with the company I'm at, and learn a bunch, take away as much as I can, and we'll see where things go.
Sure. I think that's a great approach. It's a great attitude. I personally I left college after a year. One of the degrees I was looking at was going to be construction management, but I
Hmm.
just decided not to do it. And then within a year and a half or so after leaving my first year of college, I was into business for myself. And I
Yeah.
always had an interest in the heavy equipment side and the bigger stuff, but I started off as a roofer and just had to work my way up, and it took me a while to kind of get where I wanted to be
Hmm.
ultimately, like 5 years ago, the state that our company was in and where we're at, because I had to learn along the way.
Yeah.
And I think, what's great, everybody's got their way of doing it and their way of getting into the industry, whether it's a family business, they just go work for somebody else, or like you have the construction management degree, which is a huge asset to your employer
Hmm.
and for yourself if you ever become fully full-time self-employed, but going to work for somebody right out of the gate as soon as you leave college and getting that experience and getting paid to get that
Yeah.
experience and not making those mistakes on your own with your own company, I think there's a lot of advantages to that.
Yeah. And the consistent paycheck too, I guess you would say.
Sure.
Because I mean, trucking is a unpredictable industry, so it's I don't know. To me, it's kind of tough with being so new that you'd be you wouldn't know what you're getting that week. And at 22, I feel like I could better invest into the business, getting the consistent paycheck and invest more now to be able to get my name out there. And then when time comes, I know I have that guaranteed work. Um, and a bunch of people ask me, like, well, why don't you just go on your own right now and just go buy a machine and start doing site work? But I mean, you probably know like Innovative and James Doyle out
Yep.
my way
Yep.
and all them like they're full-time guys and the market's flooded with everyone with a 5 ton mini and a skid steer around here. I don't know
Sure.
about PA, but everyone has a 5 ton mini and skid steer and just the market's flooded right now. And my thing is that if I tried to like get into excavation right now, your investment would be crazy because you have to be 15-ton machine or bigger to like set yourself apart.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And we do have a lot of that around here as well. And that happened because of, the COVID nonsense, and everybody just got slammed. So a lot of guys left their employers and went out on their own. But the economy is starting to change pretty rapidly here, and everybody, that's paying attention can kind of see the writing on the wall that we're definitely going to hit a slowdown here. So now, whether you're going big or small, now is a tough time, as of today, to make the leap and jump in without a real solid plan, a ton of work lined up, and a lot of capital to get started. So I think that's a great plan. I think it's a very smart plan the way you're approaching that.
And the other thing too is that to get work in the industry, there's a bunch of people doing it, but they don't have the licenses. And it's like, so then they're just limited on yard regrades, and like I'd be doing the basic work for the rest of my life and nothing too technical.
Sure.
And that's why working for someone else that Connecticut, so P6 and P7s, your water and sewer, septic, demo, like all that kind of stuff, gas work. I wouldn't be doing that stuff on my own, and I'd be limiting myself, I think, at my age. So that's another huge reason why I'd like to go work for someone else, is to learn excavation more as a whole rather than, I don't know, be limited.
Sure. So you actually have to be licensed up there for all of those different areas.
Yeah, so Connecticut's tough. And like I talked to my friends here from Vermont, and it's like, oh, we just went through a septic last week and you don't need any inspection. No, septic's tough. You need to pass tests, have inspectors sign off on 5 of your preliminary, I'll call it, septics before that you worked under someone else's license. Water and sewer, I think you need something like 500 hours of experience before you can even go test. And gas work, there's about 25 different certifications within it around here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then demo, you need the fire marshal to sign off on you. Connecticut, yeah, you need licenses for everything.
Wow, it sounds real tough. Definitely compared to Pennsylvania. You have to be licensed here to work. Like our closest city is the city of Scranton. You have to be licensed to work down there. But as far as any other like general excavating work up here, no, you don't have to be. Your septic system has to be approved and will get inspected, but you don't need any licenses for it as long as you're capable of doing the work. And there's a lot of guys that aren't capable of doing the work, and they still do the work.
I mean, in Mass, anyone can pass it, but I'm right on the Mass line, and all these states are so close. You need a hydraulics license to operate anything with a hydraulic piston in Mass.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
man, I'm learning more on this podcast about different parts of the country than I ever thought I would. Last week I was talking to Dylan Mercier from G2 Contracting, is up in Michigan, and they have frost laws up there, and he was actually shut down because they shut him down for the frost.
Yeah,
they can't
the trucks can't move, right? Something like that.
No. Yeah. And we don't experience that around here.
No.
We have local restrictions on local roads, but not a statewide or any sort of countywide shutdown. So I was pretty surprised to hear that, but it makes sense.
I knew Michigan had that kind of stuff, but doesn't really affect us.
Sure. So what would be your vision? I know you're only thinking you're thinking short term right now, 5-year plan.
I mean, so my vision for, I guess, my own business, like by the end of this year, I think I want to have another truck, just because to have a backup truck. What that will be, I don't know. Kenworth, Peterbilt, or Mack, and have more power and some more gears. But aside from that, I think another truck just to be able to hook up to any trailer, whether it's a triaxle tractor or not, is ideal. And then a triaxle dump truck. Just so I want to be like site work orientated. So if I do make the leap for myself, I am doing it the opposite way of everyone else that goes in and buys the equipment first. But that way I already have the trucks and I can do it that way. Um, the other thing too is though, through site work, you can make so many relationships as the trucker because a lot of guys don't want to buy their own trucks right now. So I can just make a lot of relations in the company I work for or am going to work for, however you want to phrase it. He's another site work contractor that doesn't want to own a truck. So, well, what better foot in the doors than me to work for him and
Sure.
have all the trucks? And I have a plethora of people that say, "Oh, I'll come drive for you." Even like my dad has a whole roster of retired troopers that have their CDLs and would come work 3 days a week, 2 days a week. So I'm not worried about getting drivers and having to leave because I have too much work. Like I could have 5 guys on the road, let's just say, if it ever got to that point, I could still work for someone else and be happy as a dog. But yeah, we'll see where things go. I mean, the vision won't ever stop growing, and I don't think any business owner's vision does stop.
No.
But I don't know, just like my grandfather, like you read like that article I posted on my Instagram story last night that you shared. I mean, just seeing the way he grew and everything, it's like, wow, I have shoes to fill if I have that diamond on the side of my door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel like it, and not saying that you're not 100% capable of pulling that off or doubling that, but I feel like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, it was a lot easier to break in. You know, Grandpa had it a little bit easier. You didn't have the competition, number one.
No.
Not as many guys were into it. You didn't have the government regulations. You didn't have the expenses that we have now. You didn't have DEF. You didn't have emissions. Like everything right now for younger guys coming up, I feel like, and this is coming from a guy who wasn't in business in 1967, but just looking at the progression, I feel guys have to work a lot harder now and be a lot what's the word, like smarter with their moves and the way you want to do things, because it's like, you know, Grandpa probably blew up pretty quick. And
yeah, I mean, in 1969, that brand new truck that my father and I restored, he bought, I want to say it was somewhere between 12 and 16 grand, someone in there. So you buy a truck for 12 to 16 grand and it has 2 million miles on it right now.
Wow.
Like that thing paid for itself a million times.
Yeah, by 1970. Like, no problem. Yeah, and not only is that truck $300,000 now, but it also won't last as long.
No, and that's why I'd probably I won't buy something newer than 2006 for this next truck, probably just to stay back on emissions and regulations and e-logs and all that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's nice if you can do it. We had a 99 W900 tractor. I love that truck. It was a great truck. I would drive that over our 2020 Triaxle T880. You know, the newer Triaxle, beautiful truck, nice plush interior, but just didn't have the same type of power, didn't have the same type of ride. You know, the W900 feels like a truck. You know?
Yeah, you can't compare like horsepower numbers and tractors. I don't feel like, because DEF just eats up the power. Like, I mean, there's some hills I'll be bogged down on going 35 on the highway, but I'm also pulling 100K, and if I have momentum, I'll still blow past some brand new trucks that are limited at 63 miles per hour. And I don't know, old power is different than what's new.
Sure is. So kind of switching gears and backtracking a little bit, we didn't elaborate earlier. So your construction management degree, I'm kind of just curious, how do you feel that has set you up for not only the job that you're going into, but any future moves that you make? Because I feel like we have a very mixed bag these days of guys that are going to school and guys that are just going right into the workforce. And I encourage people to do whatever they feel is best for them. But I do see a lot of guys going right into the workforce. So what are your thoughts on the construction management degree? Do you feel like you did it just because it made the parents happy, or did you gain knowledge that you feel is going to be very useful for you going forward?
If it could be 2 years and like all the general electives were kind of wiped away. Like I'm taking Germans and American
Yeah,
literature right now, and it's just like I need this to graduate.
that's why
But
I
then,
left.
but then there's other classes, and it's like, all right, that's really been beneficial. Like estimating, even dealing with like the architects and dealing with BIM for, you know, AutoCAD and stuff like that. And then also on the civil engineering side, like designing like hydrology systems, it's helped a lot. And like when I go look at prints, like you can wrap your head around it a lot quicker, I think. Um, but then there's kids in my major that have no experience and they're just there checking the box because they don't see the big picture on like how it applies outside of the classroom, I guess you would say. Um, But for example, over my breaks, I've gone and worked at the new company and I've started like writing their scope of works and doing their scheduling and all that stuff while I'm at school. And I can go through his bids and understand everything. But at 22, if I didn't go to college, I wouldn't be like given those responsibilities and those opportunities. And if I went and looked at his bid, I'd be like, in a blender, so to speak.
Yeah,
Um, and it's helped me just understand numbers a lot more. Um, thank God I didn't have to take Calc 2. That's the only reason I didn't do civil engineering. But um, it's just given me a different perspective, I guess you would say. And I guess I wouldn't be in the position I'm going into at this point without going to college, so to speak. So in that aspect, it's been worth it. Does it kill me to know I could be what I could be making if I wasn't here every week? Yeah, but I'll make it up on the back end, I guess.
sure. And you're young. You're only 22.
Yeah.
You've got the time. Yeah, I do think a construction management degree is obviously, suits you very well,
Mhm.
and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people that would want to go work for somebody else, or even just get some of that business sense, in the
Yeah.
classroom, because running a business is hard. And running a business today with all of just the regulations and taxes and insurance and everything that goes into it, it's a lot. And
Yeah.
if you're not disciplined, trying to learn that stuff, like I learned a lot of stuff the hard way. I made a lot of
Mhm.
mistakes. I did a lot of
Yeah.
things wrong. I had to fix a lot,
That's everyone.
and
Like,
that's how it goes, and that's how you
yeah.
learn. But I feel like, with that you have definitely a leg up, going out into the workforce. So
Yeah,
that's
we also did a lot of business classes. So 4 years ago, my freshman year, um, didn't think I would be applying those business classes as much. But yeah, so I mean, full full picture, big picture. Yeah, I'll look back and say that was worth it 10 years from now, or maybe even a year. Who knows? But um, yeah, there's been a lot of applicable things that I've learned here. Some things I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next subject. But how it goes.
that's how it goes. It's not all common sense and exactly what you need, for sure. So what else do you do for fun on the side? What are your hobbies? Or do you just hang around the truck on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, some buddies will just all hang around like quads, dirt bikes, whatever. With my girlfriend a lot too. So, typically every weekend I go home and I work on the truck on Saturdays or go do some moves and hang out with friends at night. And then Sundays I chill, do whatever.
Gotcha. And I'm guessing there's a lot of guys at school with you that have their own truck and work and go to school at the same time.
Yeah, so you might have heard of them. They deliver precast everywhere, but my buddy's dad owns Carrera Concrete, which is like 100-year going business, and they have done like all the parking garages in Boston and bridges in Boston. So he's really cool. There's quite a few of us that just excavation on the side, not on the side, but like part time, I guess you would say, for someone else. And then there's also the people that are just fun to hang around and have no experience, and that's okay.
Yeah, I was actually kind of I was joking at first there. I was thinking like you're the exception, the guy that is going to school, running home on the weekends, running his own
No,
lowboy truck. You actually have some guys doing that there.
yeah, no,
That's awesome.
there's some of us that are just straight up hustling, and we're at the point too where it's 3 months of graduating, and we're like, all right, it's not college time anymore. Like, we're getting into the big leagues, so.
Yeah. So you guys aren't looking to get out and take some time off and relax, and
No.
you're going to leave school and you're going to put the boots on the next day and
Yeah,
go to work.
in lab yesterday, we were actually talking about like spring break, and most of us were like, yeah, we're just going to work. Like, we went away for spring break last year, and this year it's just let's go to work.
Get
We're
to work.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I like to see it. A lot of young people your age are going to leave school without a plan, without a
Yeah.
job, without motivation
Yes.
to do anything. That's a big part of it. So to see the fact that at a young age, you're here at school, doing a podcast talking about the construction life and what you're about to get into, and seeing how focused you are on that, and the fact that you're making some really smart decisions to set yourself up for the future. That's really awesome.
Yeah, with the Marine Corps, I actually will call it a gap year, but I was at boot camp and MOS school and all that. So I'm actually graduating a year behind than a lot of people I graduated high school with.
Okay.
And it was crazy to see, like, 6 months after graduation, they're still doing the same job they had in the summer before that, and they hadn't found a job post graduation. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know if construction's just different, but I I got, like, I could have called 20 different companies and had an offer at least 10 of them. You know what I mean? That's just, I guess, the way construction is right now. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a huge demand, especially for somebody young, smart, talented, and that is just, fresh and looking to get into the field and in some of these, starting roles. I mean, even like a foreman position, that's not necessarily a starting role for many people. A lot of times you have to work up to that. So yeah, I mean, the demand is very high right now.
Yeah, I mean, having the military background definitely helps. Just because, like, I have leadership roles there. I'm a sergeant, so I'm a platoon sergeant for my unit, and then I've gone to aircraft recovery training schools and all that. So I'm like a lead aircraft recovery person for the military, and one of, I think it's under 30 in the whole Marine Corps
Oh,
as of
wow.
right now. So, I mean, I've done some cool things with that and been in some unique roles that has definitely helped me and put in some unique situations as well.
What can an aircraft recovery consist of?
I mean, really just like when you show up into the damaged field, I mean, you could have debris fields of 2 miles, and it's doing the environmental, the actual aircraft recovery, just piece for piece, the crane picks to get the aircraft out of there. So it was like a 2-week course on literally rigging various aircrafts, whether you're doing it with cranes or doing hand winching out in a field and using trees for your anchors. It was a pretty cool course out at a Air Force base in Wisconsin.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you're like real accident scenarios that you've had to go to.
yeah. So you get put through a bunch of scenarios, just like probably 4 different scenarios a day and go through classrooms and stuff like that, about just strictly aircraft recovery, um, and just the different types of planes and everything,
Wow.
helicopters. Yeah.
And what's your military experience? How long have you been in the
So I've
military?
been in for 4.5 years, we'll call it. I left the day after high school graduation for boot camp. So I've been to like California a couple times to do some projects out there, and then I've also demoed ranges in New Jersey that had few unexploded bombs in my excavator bucket, from the World War II era, from when they were training in Jersey. So we've been all over the United States. Haven't left the United States yet. We'll see if that day comes. Who knows?
So you're
But
still active.
yeah, I'm in the reserve. But so you do the 1 week and a month drill, and then 2 weeks out of the year. Um, so we've done a bunch of cool things and equipment. I mean, scrapers, graders, dealing with Trimble too. That was like when I first dabbled in GPS, dozers, and everything in between. The Marine Corps is different, unlike the Army, where you see a lot of the heavy equipment pictures where they'll have 20 D7s laying around. The Marine Corps is an expeditionary unit, so every piece of equipment we have has to fit on a ship. Um, so the biggest excavator is a 250G John Deere, or biggest dozer is 850J John Deere dozer, but you can still move quite a bit of material with them, but their whole focus is being quick and easy to mobilize.
Hmm. Interesting. I guess I never really put much thought into what they would be working with and what they would be using, but yeah, in that case,
Yeah,
it has to be a quick setup and somewhat
they're
compact for what they're doing.
they're all over the place, but you'll never see graders utilized more than in the military. I mean, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, is the training centralization for all the heavy equipments between like every branch. There's probably 200 graders sitting there.
Really?
And I mean, they're just, you can move them really quick and you can blade in a road pretty quickly with a grader. So, like in California, when I went to an aircraft recovery before I went to the course, um, we had to cut through 15-foot tall sand dunes to get a path for trucks to get out to this helo that went down. And we started using a D6, and the grader was right behind it, blading like a dozer would be for some construction companies around here, because nobody really has graders unless you're a paving company.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they're not too common
No.
around here. It's dozers and skid steers.
Yeah.
And you have to get on the bigger projects to see them, at least in this area.
Yeah. The military is a whole different experience for site work. So it's been pretty neat having two different perspectives.
Man, so you're a young kid. You have a ton of experience for a 22-year-old. I
Yeah.
called you a kid. You're not a kid. You're a guy. But
I mean, I'm a kid.
you are a kid.
There's still 70-year-olds in the operators and all that. I'm a kid.
Yeah.
I'm still a
So
kid in the field.
military experience plus equipment operation and construction type scenarios in the military, plus your construction management degree. Uh, you got your family history, and wow, you're really setting yourself up right, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's pretty
that's
cool.
trying. I like to think I'm doing something right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about Grandpa and a little bit more of his history and how he kind of influenced your decision to stay in this business?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been cool. Like, I grew up there, spending a lot of time. I mean, it was my daycare some days, and I'd be loading trucks with forklifts, or
Daycare at a trucking company.
yeah, plowing snow, running around bugging office people, moving trailers when I could barely see over the steering wheel. Whatever I was doing, but I was having a good time. So that's kind of what made my passion for it. And now it's just cool, like looking back on all of it. Like, and now that's closed, like seeing how like all that I almost just took for granted, because it was just there, you know what I mean? Um, not
It was a
many kids on a
lifestyle.
yeah, not many kids on a Saturday could be driving around a go-kart on a shop and then go hop in a truck and shift gears at 10, 12 years old by themselves. Like
No.
just um not a thing. And then now like looking back through these articles like where my grandfather's like I don't know, books have like stories about my grandfather and I didn't even know each like corner of the diamond S, like my grandfather had its own word for each corner of like we could call it pillars and he's never mentioned that for me, but like here, like it says the diamond's 4 points represent the firm's past, present, and future philosophy that image, self-reliance, service, and market share are the business plans that the company believes are the most important. Like there's little things like that that I never knew or never even thought of going around. And it's just cool now that like I see that stuff and I have a way to apply it for like we'll call it round two of the Sweeney legacy.
Yeah.
Um and like always growing up, there was a smiley face on the side of a truck, and in quotes above it said, "Service you never dreamed possible." And like, kind of forgot about that. And I'm reading through these books last night about it, and it's like, wow, like I don't know if I want to put a smiley face on the truck, but service you never dreamed possible, like that could be something cool to bring back. And not many people have like a, I guess, quote or catchphrase like that. Um, so it could be something that sticks and neat to think that I could take so much old school stuff from my grandfather and make it like have a new twist to it.
Absolutely.
So
It
yeah.
sounds like he has quite the legacy.
Yeah,
And
I mean, um I've been in the airport and like I think I had a Sweeney Diamond sticker on my laptop and someone was like, "Oh, your grandfather is Richard?" And I mean, I have no clue who the guy is, but like when I had someone redesign my logo last week. A shout out to Luke Pepper, and he was like, "Yeah, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I want to keep it old school. Like the diamond's not going anywhere." And he's like, "Oh, really? Like why?" And I'm like, "Because it's what my grandfather had, and it's what I'm known for. Like people know that diamond, and people that like aren't in the industry are like, oh, it's a Superman logo. But then you get locals around me and they're like, it's really cool to see the Sweeney Diamond back on the road. Like, thought they were done and closed doors. And I'm like, we're trying to bring it back. We'll see where it goes. But
yeah, that's great, man. That's
yeah.
great. Just the recognition that you have, and
Mhm.
I guess you do have big shoes to fill.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So earlier you mentioned technology.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? I mean, going back to Grandpa's days, he had nothing compared
Yeah.
to
I mean,
what you have now. What are you
typewriter and
seeing?
everything.
Yeah, as a young guy getting into this business, how are you seeing technology used? Whether it's in the field with, tablets for estimating
Yeah.
or grading devices,
Hmm.
GPS systems. What are you seeing for technology, and what have you guys been kind of getting caught up on in school?
So school is like it's actually something I've been talking to my professors a lot about is how like we don't have any true GPS training at school, which I think is bizarre because you won't walk out to a major earthwork site right now and not have GPS. And we've learned like all the basics, which is really good, like how to hand calculate cut and fills and everything like that. I mean, now you can just walk out there with a rover and it's done however quick you can walk around. Um, but I just think where the industry is going, and if you aren't investing in technology and trying to learn it, is huge. And like being at school and learning Excel with estimating or softwares like WinS that Trimble owns for estimating, AutoCAD and all that, it's like huge for doing your takeoffs and everything. And then working at the past company I was at, really learning TopCon, and while you're in a machine and on the rover and knowing the basics and knowing how much more we're at. Then now the new company I'm going to, I'm actually missing school the end of February to go to TopCon training for 2 days and hopefully learn all the ins and outs that I don't know yet. And it's just really neat to know like that there's endless possibilities and that you'll always be learning something, because if you aren't learning something like every day, then I don't know, you aren't going to progress.
And you won't be competitive because your competition, or at least the good competition, is staying on top of this stuff. And technology is changing so rapidly. If you don't keep up with it, you're going to get left in the dust for sure.
Yeah, like I'll buy old school trucks all day, but equipment, like people that are sticking with old school equipment and not getting into GPS with them, and newer equipment with even how Cat, John Deere, Komatsu, all the brands are coming out with their own grade control systems and all that. I mean, just that alone is going to set people apart by having newer equipment, because they can have less guys in the hole. So, I mean, it's a safety thing and efficiency.
Sure. Yeah. That's a big deal. It really is.
Yeah.
Good deal.
But
all right, Matt. Well, it was great having you on today. I certainly am intrigued by your story. Young man in the Marine Corps, going to school, coming out with a job already, running a trucking business on the side. You're a busy man. I like to see it. That's awesome. I really appreciate you having you on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a good opportunity, and hope to talk again sometime.
You never know. We could have you on. Maybe we'll haul the trailer up and check out your truck someday, and we'll do one in the trailer.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Again, thanks for coming on, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.